Also, actually, their status is being challenged even without the revocation of the protection.
And there's no policy yet. There's no clear policy.
No, I mean, basically, we need a legislative fix.
All right.
This is federal legislation that needs to happen.
All right, federal legislator sitting next to me. Let's talk about this. We talk about sort of the impact of what Trump did at the executive order from your perspective. You obviously all went the opposite direction. So talk about where it is right now. Obviously it's in the courts, but where is the legislative solution to this too, and how you feel about it?
So I want to acknowledge the work that Laureen has been doing for so many years so quietly. She also came up with this term after doing a lot of work on it, and it really needs to catch on. You talked about earned citizenship.
Yeah.
Which was a wonderful
earned citizenship,
right? That what we need to do is pass comprehensive immigration reform, and let's think of it as earned citizenship. Let people earn their citizenship, but don't deny them citizenship. What I have seen is a number of things, but I will tell you that what I think is going to be a chasm that we need to fill and deal with. I'm now in the United States Senate. I'm a proud daughter of California. We have an outsized stake in the outcome of this conversation. We have more immigrants documented and documented than any state in the country. 1 out of 2 Californians was born outside of the United States or has a parent who was born outside of the United States, myself included. We have a huge stake in the outcome of this conversation. We are the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world. We have almost 39 million people. We have a huge stake in the outcome of this conversation. I now serve in the United States Senate and am working side by side with people from all over the country. And one of the things I've realized is that there are a lot of people who are the legislators who will make the decision at the federal level about immigration who do not have any experience with this population, and they also seem, some to maybe have just forgotten the history of our country, which is that we are a land of immigrants. But in a light most favorable to them, and understanding what we need to deal with, I also have a lot colleagues who are well-intentioned but just don't know who this population is. They've not attended a college track graduation. They have not seen these kids that Laureen is talking about, the dreamers. These people who as toddlers were brought into our country, who, as she said, only know our country as their home. Dreamers who are, the vast majority of them, in college or serving in our military or working in Fortune 100 companies. Some number, like almost half of the thriving businesses in California were started by an immigrant or the child of an immigrant, right? And what I'm realizing is so many of the people who actually could be leaders in getting us to the point that we pass comprehensive immigration reform, they just don't know this population. And I'll tell you how I figured that out. There was one moment, but many things that led up to it, but this one moment. So I serve on many committees, Budget Committee, I am on the Senate Intelligence Committee, who would have known, the hottest committee in town. I'm on the Homeland Security Committee, and I'm on Environment and Public Works. So Homeland Security. So the Senate has a responsibility to confirm, if we believe it's appropriate, the appointments that the president makes to, as it turns out, his cabinet. And so in the context of Homeland Security, I then reviewed the president's nominee at the time, General John Kelly. And there were a number of questions that were being asked of him during the confirmation hearing. And when it came to me, I asked him about DACA. And DACA, acronym DACA, basically deferred action for these kids. Deferred action meaning deferred deportation of these children and young people. And I asked him, is he familiar with this population? And you know that the president, former president, issued this executive order that said we will defer action on their deportation if they meet certain criteria. And I asked him, and you know that these questions included, the circumstances under which they were brought to the country. Are they living a lawful life? What are they doing? Have they being productive? Are they contributing? And if they passed a very comprehensive examination of who they are, they then qualified for DACA. So my question in the committee hearing was, General Kelly, will you agree to keep America's promise to these kids? When we said, and I have the government form where we said it, that if you, young person, give us this information about who you are, we will not share that information with ICE, which is the branch of the Department of Homeland Security that deports. I asked him if he would commit. He would not commit.
So they want to use it for that. So
I then asked him in another process called, I now know all these acronyms. I know a process called a QFR. Those questions for the record. The
law.
The policy priorities on immigration of the president.
all right. So
But here's what I'd like to share with you. In between those two, the committee hearing and me submitting these questions for the record, I asked for a meeting with him where he and I could just meet and talk. And during the course of our conversation, when again I asked him, will you keep our promise to these dreamers, to these kids? I could tell that there was a gap in terms of just body language. We weren't communicating. And so I asked him, General Kelly, have you ever met a dreamer? And he said, no. And then, then it kind of went downhill because I said, well, I would love to set up a meeting for you with them because you have to know who they are and meet them so you can see what we're talking about. And he said, well, will you? Instead, how about if I meet with their representative? That was a low moment. But what became clear to me then and through conversations that I've had is that we need to actually create more opportunities for policymakers and opinion leaders
to meet
them and to meet, and also around H-1B visa.
Yeah.
Same thing. They don't know the population we're talking about. They don't know this population as their neighbors, as their friends, as young people that they're invested in and who are contributing.
So, Lorraine, you went to the White House to talk about this, correct? I mean, can you tell the story what you did? You went to see President Trump.
I did.
On this issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was set up for the president. By someone that we both know who wanted to make sure that he had a conversation with somebody outside of the White House about it. And and honestly, he was engaged in our meeting, and he asked a
You were
lot of
surprised. You were.
I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to expect. This was after the executive orders around the Muslim ban, and I felt like
You wanted to engage.
I would absolutely do whatever it takes. I can be helpful to students and families who I think are extraordinary and who are on the wrong side of a bad law. Which is all these students. So I went there. And honestly, we've been doing national polling and focus group testing and with Republican pollsters for years in Republican districts, in House districts. We have a supermajority of Americans who support earned citizenship, who support a pathway to legalization.